All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Two men in black and white. Mark Hayes, Brock Ganeles joining you here. What is it about this fucking guy that he tells people he can't stand them, and they're so afraid of him, they won't give him any back talk, any back lip. This guy's never been punched in the mouth. Yes, I'm talking about the orange tub of goo. He's the object of our ire every single podcast because right now, he is steadily, brick by fucking brick, destroying our democracy. And Kenkel's McTaco Tits is just on my last nerve. I stole that line, by the way. We'll give her credit during the show. But yeah, but Kenkel's McTaco Tits is just on my last nerve because so many people are afraid of this fucking guy. And I don't know why the military won't stand up to him, right? Latinos won't stand up to him. We got Black MAGA running around. By the way, I saw my first Black MAGA hat live and in person. Going to talk about that in just a moment. None of these Congress people have the cojones to stand up to him, and I don't know why. This guy couldn't punch his way out of a wet paper bag. He's not going to do shit to you, and neither are these other MAGA creeps because they don't want to go to prison. Joining me now, Brock Ganeles, who wakes up on the wrong side of the bed every morning while Donald Trump is in the Oval. He joins us with a look at what's going down in America right now. Brock, I don't understand the fear with this guy. Let's start with the military, because that's got you hacked off today. The military's walking around D.C. like there's some kind of criminal emergency. When I was in D.C. in the 80s, okay, it was called Dodge City, all right? We didn't have any National Guard back then, and the murder rate was through the roof. It was one of the most dangerous places in America at the time because of the drug trade. Remember all the commercials that were made about, and all of the rhetoric that went around about how close the actual drug trade was to the White House, and nobody was doing anything about it? It was literally a couple of miles, and nobody was doing anything about it. Now there's actually nothing going on, and we're looking like a military state in the district.
Nothing. Crime going down, lowest crime rates in decades. And now's the time for the crackdown. Jean Pirro getting, called on the spot and looking like a buffoon, right? That she was put in that job. But I mean, I wake up on the wrong side of the bed because I thought I fucking got through and survived my 4 years of Donald Trump. I thought that was my rear view mirror. I remember looking back and going, oh my God, how did I in this country survive 4 years of that fucking psychopathic, narcissistic moron? And now it's back. And I just still can't believe that in theory I have 40 more months of this. Eat down, 40 months to go. Okay? But yeah, I am frustrated because I watch that footage of DC and I see a bunch of 20-somethings on their phone on the street and 8 FBI, DEA, DHS, ICE guys walking down these streets with the guns like they're fucking in Kandahar, and there's fucking nothing going on, right? There's literally just a bunch of young women on their phones that barely look up, barely know what's going on around them in the world, right? And it's just an absurd scene. They might as well be walking through the daisies in fucking Wizard of Oz. It's a fucking joke that they're there.
Right. Brock, I saw a clip on, and I'll have to send you the clip. It's a great follow on IG. Well, you're not on that property because of
Zuckerberg.
Yeah. Zuckerturd. But it was a great clip where they showed one of the, alphabet letter agencies stopping a guy and saying, hey, you guys can't be smoking weed and drinking outside. Really? We're wasting our taxpayer dollars? We're not protecting our borders? We're not protecting our intellectual property? We're not protecting our cyberspace to tell people in the district you can't be drinking and smoking weed outside? Literally, we've got federal authorities enforcing nuisance crime?
Is that even a crime? Because in New York City, people are smoking weed everywhere now.
Everywhere.
I don't even think
and it's not bothering anybody.
Yeah, I don't even think it's. I don't think it's illegal anymore. I mean, what it was is jaywalking coming next. I mean, the only major arrest that I heard about in D.C. today was the guy selling deli sandwiches who they shook down, who I guess threw a hoagie at one of the ICE agents and got like arrested for, I'm sure that was like assault with a deadly weapon, right? But he got pulled away. He even admitted to it. Yeah, he's like, I threw that hoagie, right? Like, so like that was the biggest incident in DC today. And yet we have the armed forces there. But what's really angering me is there's a side story today that every VA hospital in America is understaffed. Massive cuts to VA hospitals, which gets me back to the fact that I'm pissed that not a single federal agent, National Guard, Marine, who has been called in illegally, un-American, to go in and police, local police of their fellow citizens. Not one of them has said no and said that this is not what they signed up for. And I really just believe, like, Trump is playing our armed forces for the suckers and losers that he thinks they are, and that he can have them do anything that he wants them to do, give them no care after the fact. If they get injured or, killed, we know he won't give a shit. He'll do photo ops in Arlington, right, for himself. And he won't give them the care, be it physical or psychiatric care they need if they actually get injured and or have problems adjusting back to life after their service. And they're just being played for suckers and losers. But you know what? They know in advance now. They knew 8 years ago, 10 years ago, Trump told, John Kelly, they're suckers and losers, and he's playing every one of them for a sucker and loser. So where are the leaders from West Point? Where are the leaders in the military talking to the rank and file and saying, this is not what you signed up for. You're being played. I want to see our armed forces lay down their arms, refuse these assignments, so we can have a national conversation on why the fuck they're there, and we can bring this out in the open, because Trump's saying he's doing this in every city. He's going to do this in every single, of course, cities, urban areas only when there's more black people than white people.
No doubt. And Brock, let's think about it. These military leaders, when you look at it, these are the finest students, right, that we have to offer. Think about the admissions requirement to get into one of the academies. These are the best of the best. You need a congressional appointment to get into one of these academies. Have you no moral compass that comes with the rest of the formal education that we believe that you received, which makes you eligible for admission into the finest learning institutions America has, next to the Ivy Leagues, right? The service academies are the best you can get in America. You've been to West Point, you've seen the facilities.
Absolutely.
I've been to Air Force and Naval Academy. It's absolutely gorgeous, spotless.
Yeah, but it's also the discipline that's enforced. I mean, there's so much more the physical rigors. Yeah, what I saw is I went to summer camp there as a kid, sports camps there, being up there in the summer when the plebes are coming in. And they're coming they're on campus for the first time. Yeah, they're out marching 6 a.m. You're like a 12, 13-year-old kid. You want to sleep till 8. And you go in the mess hall and they're eating that official way. They can't say a word. Square. I mean, that's when I knew. I was like, there's no way I could be in this academy. Geez, I would make one wise ass comment. My ass would be kicked out of here.
Out of there.
I mean, I couldn't believe the amount of discipline that they were going through. So I have a lot of respect for it. But they're being played. They're being played for suckers. They're being played for losers. They're not being taken care of. They're literally being laughed at by their commander in chief, who utilizes them like pawns on a board and does not care anything about what happens with them. And now they're going to have to live with the fact that they're a part of this authoritarian movement. You're not going to be able to walk away from that and pretend like you weren't a part of it. Nazi Germany, I was just following orders, did not float at Nuremberg. It does not float to accept improper, illegal, immoral orders.
Right.
And no one's stepping away from it. No one's stepping.
Quick side note, Brock, at West Point, one of my favorite cousins went to West Point to play football and did not last there. One of his roommates I recall going up for a visit, and his roommate had told him to make sure that he kept the room clean and made up his bed on a daily basis. And my cousin promptly proceeded to knock him out. And he ultimately had to go back home to South Carolina. So, and that changed the whole trajectory of his life. One little racist remark like that changed the trajectory of my cousin's life. He was a phenomenal football. I used to go to his house and just look at the letters. He had a shoebox. And I used to just look at the letters of the teams that were recruiting him. I used to beg my parents to let me go to South Carolina in the summer so I could watch him play in this big 5-way, 10-team scrimmage at this big stadium in South Carolina. And he would ball out. I was so proud of him. And he ended up coming to West Point and was not able to be successful. And it was that racist crack that ended up providing the ultimate, straw that broke the camel's back and sent him out of there and changed his entire life. But getting back to what you're saying to the suckers and losers, again, another group of people who hear what this guy is saying, because they hear it, right? You got a group of veterans against Trump. So they're hearing it. Why are they so afraid? Again, where is the hero? Where is that person that's willing to stand up? Where is our, military version of a Gavin Newsom, right? Nobody's speaking up. And, look, Trump is being a little bit more sophisticated with his, criminal investigations and referrals with Gabbard and Bondi and these lunatics, right? But nothing's gonna stick. You ever see, it reminds us of his perverse obsession with the president, right? Like in The Lion King. Remember when the hyenas used to say, Mufasa, Mufasa? And, if we could run up behind Trump and say, Obama, Obama, it would probably freak Trump out because he's so, obsessed with this man. Now he wants a criminal investigation into the Obama administration. For what? For Russia, Russia, Russia? Oh, by the way, you got a meeting planned with old Vladdy on Friday on his turf, because in Russia they believe Alaska belongs to Russia. Let's not forget that part, right? And then we're not even going to have a translator in there that's going to be able to come back and tell us what actually happened in that meeting, right? Lisa Murkowski is probably going to run for cover. She'll probably be up in Fairbanks or somewhere where, no one can find her. She's going to be hiding off on, safari or something off in the mountains up there. And it's going to be just another pick up the to-do list from Vlad. Here are your marching orders, Donnie, right? Because Russia, Russia, Russia is not a hoax. And you can read what they found in the first investigation if you want. It's all online. But again, we as the dumbed down American public, we don't read anymore. You can read it on your tablet. And we're not reading anything. We're not reading the results of the Mueller investigation because we're too stupid. And now he's going to go and get more instructions on how to continue to tear down our democracy while 2025 works, behind the scenes, in the dark of night, dismantling all our rights and taking away the liberties that we have come to know in this great democracy, which is no longer that.
Well, the big risk is he's going to fuck over Ukraine, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
which basically fucks over Europe, right? So now they're going to have to escalate. They're going to have a bigger problem. So it's almost inevitable that this is going to be problematic for Ukraine, problematic for Europe, right? So once again, we will be making problems for what had been historically our allies, the other democracies in the world, right? So we're more likely to be cozying up to and playing the flunky for an authoritarian, while as commander-in-chief, Trump is focused on deploying our troops to fucking Washington, D.C., while it has the lowest crime rates in 30 years, as he's making up the fabrication of an emergency. Because if he's learned one thing, right? Trump doesn't know much. He's a moron. But he knows if he calls things an emergency, he has all these powers and he can do all kinds of shit. So everything's a fucking emergency. It's an emergency at the border. Now it's an emergency in D.C. It was an emergency in L.A., right? Everything's an emergency now.
Right, right.
And it's just a fraud. It's an absolute fraud. And
remember, these emergencies, they're not stupid, right? They're not going into the crime-ridden area. They're not in Southeast D.C. I'm not seeing any video from over there. And from what I know about D.C., Southeast was a pretty rough part of town. I used to have an auntie that taught over there, right? You really want to smoke? Go to where the smoke comes from, all right? These ICE agents, again, they're not in the barrios, right? They're not in South Dallas. They're in Liberty City. They're not where the real smoke is, right? Because they don't want the smoke, right? It's easier to just grab brown people. Right? Why aren't they at the jail? Why aren't we seeing video from prisons and jails of them picking up people and relieving overcrowding and getting rid of what you call the worst of the worst? Right? All these immigrants that have supposedly committed crimes, why aren't you filing them out of the prisons?
well,
Right?
the other question is, there's a big target on the homeless in D.C., which, oh, by the way, isn't a crime. Like, people don't want to be homeless, right? It's an economic problem. They can't afford the ridiculous cost of housing in this country. Okay, so where are they going with these people? Where are they going?
They said they were either taking them to jail or taking them to shelters so far away they have no idea where they are.
Okay, so
They really don't care.
Yeah, I guess they don't. So So they're just throwing them in a shelter.
Yeah.
They're treated like they're getting deported from D.C. What are they going to throw them in a shelter in Dubuque, Iowa?
Right. I mean, they don't care. They're lucky they're not going to El Salvador, or some African nation.
I don't. Yeah, there's no plan. That's no plan. Like, we're just going to shuffle people
plan.
around to facilities. We're not solving a problem, right? We're just going to shuffle. We're just shuffling them around.
Brock, we could solve it if we would tax the rich, but we don't want to do that. Oh, by the way, our deficit hit 37 trillion. I'm sure you saw that. Donald Trump is responsible for what, a quarter of that, 25% of that? That moron, the guy with 6 bankruptcies, is the guy who we said was good with business. So let's make him president. The guy was good with the economy. Let's make him president. Oh, by the way, price of eggs still hasn't come down.
Yeah, I was surprised that deficit number actually got released in light of what happened to the labor statistics woman after she released the data.
No doubt.
Like, whoever put out that 37 trillion number, man, they guys better start sharpening up their resume.
Right.
They're gone. They're gone.
Looking for work.
Yeah, they got it. They're gonna have to like they're doing labor statistics. They're not gonna put the statistics out for another month because they have to rework how it's being done. Blah blah blah. So basically, because the numbers look bad, we're not gonna hear them anymore.
Right. And by the way, I saw. I read an interesting blurb last night because remember, we reminded everybody, we try to remind everybody on the show, it's all about the racism and the impact on Black women. And these numbers is staggering since Donald Trump has come into office, and all those cuts and job losses, 1,000 job losses for Black women. And you have to remember too, Brock, because of the American justice system, the Black man is already under fire. So the Black woman remains in large part, right, the primary breadwinner in a lot of homes. Yeah. Right? So
key
when
provider.
You're looking at it, and then take it a step further, so these Black women, a lot of them working for the federal government, right? Because those were very good paying positions, a lot of stability, right? So now donations to the Black church have fallen because those were the people, those were the women.
They don't have the money.
That were
They don't have the money. I thought you were going to go. The next step was like, yeah. Then they lose the job, then they lose the health care and the health care benefits, and now we've stripped away the ability to get health care because it's supposedly get a job, gotta get a job, go get a job, go get a job. but you can't find a job that gives health care. You can get those like 1099 jobs, those gig worker jobs. You can get exploited and do those jobs, but not one that comes with the health care benefits. So now you don't have a job, you don't have the money, now you don't have the health care, but you're being told that you're a lazy ass because you should just go get a job that provides health care. Oh, just go get that job. But we have rising unemployment. Jobs are declining. New York City had the lowest job growth in at least a decade. It may have been 2 decades. It was way before COVID in the last month. So no one's hiring. Right. New York City, no one's hiring.
No. And, and they're sitting there lying about the jobs numbers. We know the jobs numbers are a joke. We know they're pathetic. We can't trust anything that comes from this government. And then, we're giving tax breaks to people who are creating spaceports. The fuck is a spaceport? What do we need what does Elon Musk need a spaceport for? His rockets can't even get to space. And yet he's getting tax breaks and he's getting government contracts, right? The rich are getting richer, right? This tax bill was the biggest transfer of wealth in American history, according to the experts, right? So why do some of the poorest among us, right? Some of the most vulnerable among us vote Trump? I'm talking about white rural voters. Why are you voting for this fucking guy? It's the racism.
It's the racism.
It's the racism. Because Kankles McTaco Tits doesn't care about you. Thank you, Jennifer Welch of Bravo fame. He doesn't care about them, right? He cares about them like he cares about black police officers.
I don't know who Jennifer Welch is.
She used to be on Bravo. She has a I've Had It podcast. Her and I think Amy Sedaris is on it, but it's a good listen. They're fun. They go at your boy hard. And she's got a viral clip going right now. I'll have to send it to you. You'll enjoy it.
Okay.
But she talks about the irony of MAGA folks stopping into a Mexican restaurant to have a meal and to enjoy the Mexican culture. Jennifer Welch says MAGA, especially those who triple trumped, and if you triple trumped, if you voted for Trump 3 times, you should only be allowed to enjoy Cracker Barrel. That should be the finest dining establishment that you should be allowed in. She said that, I about fell on the floor.
I'm seeing some clips of some of these triple Trumpers. I hadn't heard that term before. With the clips of them regretting the vote, right? Have you seen those montages of them regretting the vote finally? Because it's finally sort of like hitting them over the head. Their job is lost. Their health care is gone. Their home got washed away in a flood and no one cares because there's no FEMA. Notice another flood happened in Tennessee. No one will come to help them. But Marsha Blackburn
that part
won't give a shit. She thinks she's going to be the governor of that state next.
Floodplain.
But they got the racism, and supposedly psychologically people are happy when bad things happen, to quote, to the people they don't like. Right. So they're willing to lose things themselves as long as they get that satisfaction, which feels weird that would matter to you so much. But apparently that is the way the brain sometimes works, and we're certainly seeing it in full force, right? Because we've seen the voting behavior, we've seen the social behavior, we see the outright blatant day-to-day, in-your-face parking lot argument racism.
Right. And by the way, 53% of Americans say that the cost of groceries is a major source of stress, but yet they'll still vote for, Mr. McCankles. I mean, it makes no sense. We can't we figured it out. It's the racism. But let's talk about this other topic that has just chapped our ass in our pre-production meeting. And that is the renaming of the Kennedy Center. Hallowed.
First, that's a joke. That press conference today was absurd. Trump's going to play master of ceremonies at the Kennedy Awards. Laura Gaynor certainly should refuse to show up, please. I would hope that members of KISS from the Jewish community, fine members from the Jewish community, would not accept Trump's award. I'm sure Stallone will be happy to get it, right? And let's just let the two of them, Trump and Stallone, just be there alone, fucking around. But that is an absolute joke. I thought where you're going to take me was to the shooter down in Georgia, the CDC shooter, because when I read that he got off 500 rounds of ammo, killed a black policeman, and then killed himself. But we're always like thinking about how fast the police were on the, they ran in, they got there. This guy got off 500 rounds, he killed himself.
Right.
Thankfully.
Right.
Thankfully, he killed himself.
And how do you buy 500 rounds and nobody knocks on your door and says, what the hell are you planning? Right? Like, again, common sense gun reform can't get done because we gerrymander districts and the Republicans are better at chess than we are, right? Than the blue side. Republicans have been gerrymandering forever, right? But this is the first time they've done it at the behest of the president of the freaking United States. But you know what? It's interesting too, because the president didn't mention anything about the loss of life of the police officer, the man in blue. Maybe because the man in blue was black. It's the racism. It's a common theme here on our show, folks. Get used to it.
Back the blue. Supposedly he's backing the blue. He didn't care. He hasn't even mentioned a whisper about it. And just to think, like, this was one of his guys, right? Because it was an anti-COVID, anti-vaccination guy, so riled up that he's firing 500 rounds, ran at the CDC building, right? CDC. Those fuckers are out there all over the place. So, yeah, in America, you buy 500 rounds, you either get a coupon for 100 free, right? Buy 500, get 100 free, or, you become a best customer.
Yeah, but the ATF is not knocking on your door because they're busy telling people you can't be drinking alcohol and smoking weed out on the corner of K and 16th Street. What are we doing? What is alcohol, tobacco, and firearms doing? Right? Now that it's okay to carry a freaking, 357 in the Publix, and into church, right? What does the ATF do? They must be bored out of their minds. But, because they're not being charged with keeping an eye on the white supremacists and, these radical hate groups. Because isn't it ironic that the KKK is still alive and well, but the Black Panther Party was extinguished before it could even get going good, right? Anything promoting black positivity gets extinguished with the quickness. And I want to know, when are we going to start stopping these guys before they get off 500 rounds?
Well, no one's even paying attention because the FBI, that's not where their focus is. They're looking back into, trying to pin something on Obama from 15 years ago. Like, we know it's all a fraud, but once again, suckers and losers, like these people in these jobs, like you're not acting in the best interests of America.
At all.
And that's what you swore to do. And, you have to have that moment where you kind of make a decision on where you're going to be with your life, because everyone's going to know where everyone stood during this time period. And if you got ATF agents cruising down the DC streets instead of being out in the field cracking down on right-wing extremists who are carrying AK-47s and, firing randomly at, in essence, government buildings, like, what are you doing with your life? Like, what are you doing? And why are you supporting Donald Trump Project 2025? Yeah. And if you're not a white supremacist yourself and a hardcore racist yourself, if you are one of those, I get it. I know why you're doing it. Right. But if not, what are you doing?
Yeah. And you know what? And as an African American in America, we know how difficult the struggle has been. We've heard the stories from our ancestors. We understand it's the racism, stupid. I saw my first Black MAGA hat wearing fool as I boarded a plane in Miami over the weekend. And I looked at him and I gave him a look of such disgust. Apparently the lady behind him looked at me and laughed her tail off. And I just said to her, could you see it on my face? And I didn't say anything to the guy. I really wanted to get up and smack the hat off his head and just take it and stomp it with his head in it. because it makes no sense to me. You can't argue that Donald Trump is doing anything for Black America, besides wanting to own them. And I will never understand Black MAGA. I will never understand it, and I understand that it goes back hundreds of years from the house and the field, and we can get into that argument with historians, and the Michael Eric Dysons of the world, and the Henry Louis Gates of the world, who could probably explain it to us. But in this day and age, let's keep it simple, stupid. You pull the trigger, you pull that voting lever for Donald Trump, you're pulling the lever for white supremacy, even in your brown skin. And you're not going to be welcome at the meetings. You're not going to be welcome at the Klan meetings. You're not going to get the memo. And I can't.
No, I kind of just put him in that same, like, I just feel like it's the suckers and losers category.
No doubt.
Like, you're just being played. Like, you're being played. You'll be used for whatever, means to an end that needs to be used. You'll be paraded out. You'll be the ones that are seated behind Trump when he does a rally or a speech to make it look like he has the support, right? They'll cherry pick you. You'll just get played, but you'll never get a benefit out of it. Nothing will ever come your way, and your people will be getting hurt every day. And that's who you are. I don't understand it.
Yep. And by the way, the Kennedy Center will now be the First Lady Melania Trump, arts center, because of her, fervor for the arts. What kind of arts? Butt naked art? Like, what has been her passionate, call to promote the arts? I haven't seen it. She hasn't done anything except tear up the Rose Garden.
Was that name switch formally made? Because I thought that it had to be like some sort of congressional act.
Yeah, there was a resolution that was put. I mean, it hasn't been formalized yet.
Yeah, because Congress is on vacation because they don't want to have to talk about the Epstein files.
Exactly.
Johnson sent everybody home.
Yep. But, somebody had put up, the fact that they're going to make a motion to, rename the Kennedy Center in her name. We're really plagiarizing former stripper who met her husband at the Kit Kat Club, which is a place for rich dudes to cheat on their wife with Eastern European women and to basically be sugar daddies, is going to have her name put on one of the hallowed halls of artistic creativity in America?
Temporary. This just gets back to another thing that Democrats can come out and say, when we're elected, we're taking down the fucking name, it's going back in Kennedy's name. Exactly. Just like we talked about with like the DOE and NOAA with the weather and FEMA and DEI, all these things that have been stripped away that Democrats should be talking about every day, that they're going to restore, rebuild, or reinvigorate when they get back into their seats. Things that, and USAID, like we're going to feed hungry kids again around the world, and and have a message of what they're actually going to do to counter all the atrocities, what's going on around them. Like, to me, the Melania naming things, those are the ones that don't really, quote, hurt anybody, but like they're just an embarrassment and they degrade America, and
Yes.
and they're a representation of America in decline.
Right. All right, buddy, you got a quick hit for me? We're over time here.
I'm glad I heard your Black MAGA story. I have actually never seen a black person in a MAGA hat up close in person.
First one. He looked like a dork, too. The horn-rimmed glasses. Just, I really wanted to throw a couple joints on him. And I didn't choose violence. I'm a little bit more mature these days, but if he would have caught me in my early 20s, late teens, boy, I might have hit him with one of them overhand rights from one of those clearing parties that we used to have up there in Upper Westchester County.
All right, Mark.
A fair share of scuffles back then.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
I will talk to you tomorrow.
We'll crank it up and do it again tomorrow, my friend. Peace.
Okay. Bye-bye.